Hey, thank y'all for coming out. Appreciate it very much. Excited to start another season. A lot of familiar faces in this room. We know each other pretty well now, but our guys have done a tremendous job. Starting back in January when they got back in school and the work that they've put in throughout spring ball, throughout what they've done in the weight room, and then, really even the little break that we had in the month of May when they get out of school, and they did a great job of continuing to work, came back for summer in great shape, and Eric Anthony and his staff have done a tremendous job with our guys. They look great. They're running well. You see vast improvements as guys continue to grow, and I think that's what you're going to see out of our football team as we enter this fall. We've got a lot of young guys that we've had to play over the last couple of years that are now got a little bit more experience about them, been in some battles, been in some wars, and now understand what it takes and what it looks like. We got 9 guys coming back on defense. I'm extremely excited about that. Those guys have gelled well together. We changed schematically a little bit last year for what we were doing in the years previous. Now with Coach Young's retirement, which wish him all the best and appreciate everything he's done for myself and for our program. Now with Coach Gillespie taking over our defensive coordinator position, I've got nothing but faith and confidence in him and excited about, the little twists and changes that are happening within our defense, within our scheme of what we're doing. But there's always growth and the ability to make something better that we're looking for each and every day as we approach the field. And then offensively, I know all of you are going to ask about the quarterback part of it, so those guys are in a great battle. But I feel more confident in our quarterbacks than I felt in a long time. We've got a little bit of experience in the room. We've got a great room as far as their knowledge of the game and what they're wanting to do and what we have to do as an offense. Our receivers are starting to grow up, and I see a lot of growth in them throughout the summer from a leadership standpoint, as well as what they're doing and putting on the field. So as we look forward to our season, we know we have an extremely, extremely tough schedule. From the get, you've got to be on top of your game. You've got to be ready to play. We're going to be tested early. We know that as we get into our conference continues to grow and get better. And when you're starting to talk about the amount of talent in our league from a player standpoint and a coaching standpoint, I would put our conference against any of them from top to bottom. So every week we got to come out and be ready to play. Every week we've got to continue to get better. Our young guys have got to continue to keep growing, and we got to keep gelling as a team. But with spring over and now fall camp right here on us, we're excited to get back on the field with them and go to work and start to be able to put them through drills and see them move and react and do the things that we need to do to prepare ourselves for a great season this year. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
So, Philip, you've got a lot of starters back, a lot of impact players in a lot of positions. You mentioned the quarterback race is not necessarily one of them. You got a competition there. Offensive line is not another one,
right,
where you've got players competing. How do you expect that to shake out on the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really encouraged by the depth and the talent that we have on our defensive line. And so those offensive line guys had to go against that every day. And it was a battle. I mean, there were some good days and some bad days throughout it, but our guys grew a lot, gained a lot through that competition. We're going to get some more of that, obviously, as we get into fall camp. Chris Ivey's got to lead us. I mean, he's really our true returning starter. Chris Paul, in my opinion, is a returning starter. We have several guys with some experience coming back, whether you're talking about Dylan Couch or you're talking about Tillers. A lot of those guys got a lot of playing time last year, especially after the loss of Tyler Bowling, halfway through the season. So it's making those guys gel together. I think, X is going to be a great addition at the right tackle part of it. We're not going to have the depth up front that we really need at this point, some of that due to injury and other things. But I'm excited about the way those guys are working and the talent I think that we do have up front.
You mentioned being more confident in your quarterbacks than you have been in a while. Whether it's Zach or Seth, your offense didn't really look like your offense for a lot of the last 2 years. I mean, do you feel like you can get back to looking the way it did, your first?
Well, I hope so. I mean, every year your offense hopefully is going to – we're trying to gear our offense to what we have available to us on the field, right? So, obviously, that's done through recruiting and other things, and you're always looking to continue to upgrade your talent. We do that every year. That being said, the last 2 years, in my opinion, we were pretty dang good up front. We were pretty young at some of the skill spots, so you were trying to lean on some of those older guys. I think this year we've got to do a much better job throwing the football and throwing it successfully down the field, being more consistent with that. I think our receivers, whether you're talking about Keenan or Keelan, those guys have got to continue to step up and grow and make those plays for us, but there's a lot of things that kind of go into it. So, yes, we're looking to push the ball again. We're looking to have the ability to spread it out and use it sideline to sideline and vertically. That's the plan going in. Now we got to go in and execute it and make those things happen. And the only time you can do that consistently is doing it under the lights. We were showing some signs of that, especially later in the year as we were on the practice field. Some of that started translating late in games. A couple of big throws in the SMU game that Seth made that I was really happy with. He continued to grow. If you look at what happened in the spring game, there were some chances for some of those to happen, and they did. So we've got to continue to keep pressing the envelope when it comes to that and getting back to who we really want to be and be fast and explosive and making those plays down the field.
Along those same lines, how important is it to find some receivers beyond, Keelan and Keenan to develop? Is that just a matter of consistency that maybe hasn't been there in the past?
Yeah, I think some of it's that. Some of it's been some injury things, but I think more importantly, I think some of those young guys this spring got a lot of great reps. You saw some guys growing at the end of last year, and then spring ball came about and took another step. And so we got to see that same thing in fall camp. I think there are some young guys that you may not know their names yet, but are going to have some opportunities to make some plays that are going to bring some light to that. So I think we've got a handful of guys that are ready to do that. Now they got to do it under the lights.
Yeah, so Coach Gillespie's been here, obviously, but taking over as a new DC, the defense was a strong point last year. Is it something he's just going to kind of keep it the same way, or are there little nuances he's changing, tweaking? How's that going to work out?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a better question for him, obviously, but he's going to add his twist to it. We've changed some things. You can see it throughout our spring ball. There's some tweaks and some nuances that he is going to add. As we installed what we did last year, I think even on the defensive side, we were all pretty new to this and kind of, all right, here's our basis, and this is what we want to base out of, and then continuing to grow and learn throughout it as the season went on. But I think a lot of those jumps that we made defensively from a stat standpoint, let's say, a lot of that was we limited a lot of things that we had, and we got really good at what we were doing, and guys understood it and knew where they fit, knew where they were dropping to, and then guys were able to play a lot freer and go make plays. So I think with the development of what we've done schematically and also the development of our players, you got young guys that have stepped up like Travis and others. Cooper, in my opinion, has been extremely consistent over his last couple of years of starting. Zaven added obviously a huge chunk to that. And then secondary-wise, those young guys that we had to play with are now older guys that started making plays. So it's all about confidence and being relentless to the football and doing it together.
Philip, you're not just playing two Power Fives in the non-conference, but two Power Fives who've done some pretty big things.
Yeah, annually in the top 20, if not better.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? I mean, it's an opportunity, I realize, for your program, and
sure
it's great for your fan base. But do you compartmentalize that with the fact that that's an awful lot for this program to bite off, considering the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tremendous challenge for us, and I think that's the way we have to approach it and look at it. Especially when you're opening up your season on the road at one of those places, and then, having Oklahoma State at least come to our place, that's going to be new, at least since I've been here. We haven't had that opportunity to have a team like Oklahoma State come to our place. But we look at it as a challenge, obviously, but we also look at it as an opportunity. And we get between the white lines, we're going to line up and see what happens. I know our guys are going to be prepared. I know they're going to be excited. I know they're going to be ready. Now we got to go out and we got to execute at a really high level right from the jump because we don't have any time or any opponents in there to kind of ease our way into anything. When we step on the field, we're going to have to play at a really high level immediately.
Would you like to see 2 Power Fives on future schedules in non-conference?
Well, I mean, that's really out of my hands. I don't get to really choose on any of that stuff. I enjoy being able to play Power 5 schools. I still kind of think of football kind of in the old terms, right? So we were all Division I schools at one point. When we were in the BCS, there wasn't any Power 5, non-Power 5. It was just Division I schools, and we played each other, and you were in different conferences. But we understand the landscape of college football right now. If I had my druthers, I would probably play one of those guys, and I would find 3 other preseason games, and then we'd roll into conference because our conference is so difficult. There's not an opponent in there that you think you feel really strongly about that, hey, this is a dub no matter if we just show up on a Saturday, right? Our conference has gotten extremely difficult and extremely competitive, a lot of parity within it. And so at the end of the day, you want opportunities to go play for championships, and you want opportunities to go play for bowl games, and that's what makes your program continue to grow and develop. So when I look at it from that standpoint, yeah, I could back off of that a little bit and make sure that we're looking at what are we really wanting at the end of the season.
Coach, back here, how soon would you prefer to name a starter at quarterback?
I never put a timeline on it, Luke. So whenever it's the right time, then we'll name it and we'll go from there.
John?
Nice to meet you, Luke.
Speaking of Power 5 and whatnot, we hear every day about somebody in the transfer portal. We hear about how this school is affected by somebody they got in the transfer, who might be in the transfer portal. How does it affect schools like Tulsa? How have you approached your strategy for scouting the transfer portal? Schools on your level, for instance.
Yeah, so we've kind of developed our own little system how we're trying to work the portal, and obviously, being year one, I think we handled the portal correctly. It's very difficult because it's changing all the time, and to be able to try to not only identify a guy that fits your program or a need that you have in your program, and then you got to figure out why is he on the portal. I mean, did something bad happen in his past? You got to start making some phone calls. You got to start doing some things to kind of figure out what that is, and then assessing, honestly for us, can I get him into school, coming from where he came from? So the things on the portal, there's some guys that jump on there and they're off within 24 hours. There's been many opportunities for us to talk to kids, and then things change immediately because they may have already had an idea of what they were going to do, and they jump on it and they're already locked into their new place and they're not really doing that part of it. So we're going to keep using the portal. I think it's an opportunity for us when you have injuries or when you have things that happen or you have a kid leave your program. Really hurts you from a depth standpoint as you're starting to develop kids. And so the portal is a way that you can kind of replace some of those depth issues if we can get them in school and use it the right way, and making sure that we're getting the right kids in our program, the ones that can help us but also characterize or what we're looking for.
Coach, your evaluation of the American Athletic Conference is pushed to try to get a Power 6, and we have many accomplishments over Power 5 teams recently, and also the impact of UConn dropping out now.
Yeah, I think it's a true deal when you start talking about the Power 6 part. I think as you see what the history has been over the last couple of years and how, in my opinion, the landscape has changed a little bit, I don't think there's any question. If you're looking at conferences outside of what they're referring to as the Power 5, we are the next conference. We've had more wins versus those people. I think the Big Ten is even clarified us as one of those opponents so that they can use that within their scheduling. And so I don't think there's a question of that. I think also with the ESPN contract that we just had, what they've done and stepped up to the plate as far as for our conference has been tremendous. And I also think that shows where they view us in relation to the landscape of college football. So it's something that continues to grow. I hope at some point we get kind of adopted into that mesh and land on our feet and be on even ground with those teams and be able to compete really for the postseason part of it. And that's the real nugget of what all this is about.
UConn's not really a factor.
You know, I don't see it that way. Now, I'm a little biased, but you know, for UConn, I think they are leaning obviously towards more of a basketball conference. I don't know really what that entails for their football program, and I don't know that they have given it a lot of thought. I'm not in those meetings, but I don't know where they go football-wise from this point forward. So for us, I think we're happy with where we're at right now with the teams that are left, and we're not out seeking new membership for our conference. Obviously, people are calling and wanting to be a part of it because they know what this brings and what it carries. But I don't think we're actively searching. We're okay with what we got, and we'll see where it goes from here.
You lost both kickers. Tell us a little bit about what do you got at the kicking game right now?
Yeah, you know, we've got a kid that actually transferred in that's going to walk on for us as a graduate transfer. We've got a couple of young guys that I feel confident about. Those guys have been here with us all spring, all summer. Obviously, there's a job there to win, and so I'm excited to see what they're going to do and what they're going to bring. It's such a huge part of the game that kind of gets overlooked so often. You know, Redford did so many things for us and knocked down so many points for us in crucial situations. And so, you know, those guys really don't get talked about enough unless they screw up. And so we've got our punter back, we've got our holder back, we've got our deep snapper back. We've got to fill in that spot for the field goal extra point guy and the kickoff guy. And I think we've got some good prospects for that, and we'll see how it kind of works its way through fall camp.
I got two. Sorry. Just the goal going into the season. Maybe is it to improve off last season? Is it a conference championship? Whatever the goal is, does it change from year to year, or do you guys keep it pretty consistent?
Pretty consistent, really. I mean, our first goal is number one, we got to compete every day, and then after that, it's let's get bowl eligible, and let's get there as fast as we can get there. Once we get bowl eligible, yes, we have more goals, but once we get bowl eligible, then let's just see where we're at, and let's continue to keep working and fighting towards that. You know, just like we did in year two, we had a couple of tough games in there where we were close to being able to play for that deal. But those guys are going to be hungry. We got to line up and do it every day, and it's all about us coming together and getting that done. And then, you know, for these guys, you know, the last couple of years we haven't got to experience that bowl season, and it's important for us to get back to that for them. You know, they put in all this time and work and effort, and I want to see our guys see the payoff of that at the end of the year.
We've hit on the quarterback situation. We've hit on replacing some offensive linemen, but what you don't have to do is replace two running backs. I mean, you have both Corey and Shamari back. How big is that for what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. I mean, they're a great 1-2 punch. I think they really work well together. I think it provides something defensively that they got to prepare for because they run differently. Plus, both of those guys, number one, we got to keep them healthy. You know, last year we're kind of banged up back and forth with both of them. If we can keep them healthy, those two guys have been in a lot of games, a lot of wars. They've proven what they can do under the lights. And we've got to find and continue to find ways to get the ball in their hands and let them use their God-given ability to help us go win.
Speaking of the running backs, Shamari and Corey, a couple years ago had D'Angelo and James.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about your system, or is it your system that allows two guys to have those kind of seasons and that kind of success, or has it been almost a luck of the draw, we end up with two talented guys and we just figure out a way to make it work?
No, I think it's a plan for us. Now, the tough thing is as guys come in, a lot of times they're coming from a high school where they were the guy. So when we ask them to understand what this scenario, we're going to be running back by committee. We're not going to have a true starter and we're not going to have a true backup. You're both going to be starters. You're both going to get a lot of touches. Whoever has the hot hand that game is going to get more touches. They understand that, but they really work well together and understanding. In college football, it's difficult for a running back to stay healthy for a full 12 games or 13 games or 14 games, depending upon what you're going to get to play. So being able to share that load, to be able to stay fresher longer throughout the season, I think they see the benefits of that and now understand how it works. And now, they're the ones toting the flag saying, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's make sure that we get it done together.
That was tough for Zach having to sit out last year and watch. We saw him some in the spring game. You saw him come through spring ball, and now I know your time with them in the summer is limited, but I'm sure you get reports. How have you seen him as, a quarterback, which is always kind of a leadership position on the team? How have you seen him kind of grow his personality with regard to that?
Yeah, I think from the leadership standpoint, he's right where I want him to be right now. He's not as vocal as maybe he would be after being a starter for a year or after playing a certain amount of games. I think our guys look to all of our quarterbacks in that sense. I think the number one thing with him sitting out, I think it allowed him, because he's never had this chance, it allowed him to sit back, kind of learn more about the game, see more about the game, but it also gave him a chance to get healthy. He got here, he's pretty banged up, and it allowed him to really focus in on his body. EA and those guys in the weight room did a tremendous job of just kind of, hey, we're going to take it at a pretty slow pace, make sure that we get a good base and get you back healthy, and then we're going to build you up from there. He looks great right now, as do the rest of those guys. And, as I think things continue to grow and we continue to evaluate, those guys, as we get on the field, will take even more of a leadership role and be more vocal in what we do. And I think they're handling it right now the way we want them to, and I'm happy with that.
Hey, Philip, I'm RJ.
Hey, RJ, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. You mentioned how banged up players have been, and that seemed to be kind of a cruel instance for you guys last season and even in the year prior.
Yeah.
What has changed specifically in the weight room, in conditioning, to try to get some more injury prevention into what you do from a conditioning standpoint?
Yeah, I think, and that's been one of the great things with Coach Anthony and his staff. What we're doing now from a training element, I think, has really benefited our players. We've got more dynamic movements going on. We're doing a better job of using things within our training that are going to really relate back to the football field from a cutting standpoint, from a weight room standpoint, making sure that we're attacking areas of need. My third year here is when we had the 13 knee injuries. When something like that happens, some of that's just bad luck, obviously, and some of that is you look back at everything you did, everything I did, everything we did training-wise, and how can we do a better job of making sure we're preparing our kids from a body standpoint for the amount of cutting and things that are going to happen on the field. So he's done a really good job of implementing different lifts, different drills, and making sure that we're preparing our guys to step on the field and be ready to play at a really high level for an extended amount of time. But I think that's been the biggest key to all of that.
You're going into about a week now until players report. What will you do this next few days, if you haven't already prepared it, to talk about being picked last in the division with your players when they do get here, or is it even come up at all?
No, first of all, they know they're here. They've seen it, and they've been here working all summer long, so they know those predictions and picks and all of that. Does it sting? Yes. But every year we've been here, we've been picked pretty low, so it's kind of expected now, and we understand that the only way we're going to gain respect is to go earn it. And the way you do that is in between the white lines and getting W's. So I think our guys are going to approach that the right way. Is it motivation? To an extent, yes. Is it the ultimate motivation? I don't think so. We've got other things on our plate that we've put out there that we want to make sure that we accomplish and do as a team. And I can tell you right now, who knows what's going to happen in college football this year. You know, you got a couple of elite teams up there at the top, but from every stance from that point forward, you know, there's teams that had great seasons last year that were picked pretty bad, and vice versa. Teams that were picked really high that had terrible seasons. So going into it, it's about what you do each and every week, and we're going to control what we can, which is focus on our opponent and ourselves as we work our way through it.
Can you see your video board from where you are right now? You got
a little baseball going on.
You
Yeah.
ever use that thing for your own personal use? You ever put anything up?
You know, the only time we've really ever used it for that, we did not do that this year, is our team camps. We're right there always at the 1st of June. And the NBA finals were usually going on during one of those night sessions, and we would put the finals up there while the camp was going on. You can kind of take a peek and see what was happening. So,
I think John Moss would ask you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Play one movie or something up there.
Now, I think, you know, when we had the Boy Scouts of America every year, they come up during one game, and they spend the night on the field, set up all their tents. There's tents all over the place, which is a fantastic night. But they end up playing a movie up there. And so as I'm, hopefully after a win, sitting in my office kind of watching the tape, going back through it, you never know what's going to pop up on the screen out there. So I'll get to watch a movie while I'm watching the rest of that game. But that's about it.
I did have one last one. Last year, this time of year, you were talking about how kind of a mantra for the team was to focus on details.
Mm-hmm.
Thought that had been a bugaboo the year before. Do you have anything like that this year, or is it just you feel like you kind of turned a corner with the experience some of your young guys got and just kind of, you know, go out and compete every day and get better and better and things will take care of themselves?
Details has not gone away. It's still a vital part of what we're doing. Kind of our focus has been since January is about earning it. And that's what we've placed on shirts. That's what we've placed on bracelets. You've got to earn every day. You've got to earn the right to step between the white lines, and then you've got to earn respect, and that's what our program is fighting for. So every day we're trying to earn what we get, and you know, just like all of us do, you got to show up for work and make that day happen. So those are the things that we are talking about in public, and then the other stuff is in private. So, but earn it is kind of our thought.
Every FBS coach has an urgency about his job, I realize. But when a coach is coming off the seasons you've had the last 2 years, how much more do you feel that, Philip, in terms of urgency and pressure personally, that kind of thing?
You know, I think anytime in college football, that's just where college football is right now. I feel very blessed and fortunate to have the job that I have. Every year there's going to be pressure to go win. Is there more pressure this year than any other year? I don't think so. For me and for our players, every week and every year you got to go get it done. So I don't look at it as being more than years before, because our goal and our hope is to go out and win every game that we play. And so that's going to be our focus as we approach the season and continue to get better.
Coach, how do you see the significance of the signing of the OSU series?
You know, I think it's probably a great series for both schools. I like, at least in this series, we've got some home and home parts to it. I think it's always beneficial for us to get a chance to play an Oklahoma State here at home or an OU at home. I'd love to play Arkansas at home. You know, some of these closer universities, you know, from a fan base, from a just the love of college football, the old rivalries that kind of used to be around. It's always great when you get an opportunity to step back on the field with those teams and know that you're going to have a chance to do at least one at their place and one at your place and see what it's all about. But I think the fans love seeing those games, and we're going to continue to keep scheduling them.
You mean Michigan State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame aren't coming here?
Well, they haven't agreed to. I'll say that. We've posed questions. Let's just say that way.
Anything else for Coach?
Y'all good?
Coach
All right. Thank y'all.